I hadn't considered the office until I was approached by several people that I'd worked with in the pre-hospital emergency uh, business, as well as some people from the prosecutor's office, as well as some friends that said, "Hey, you know, this would be a good fit for you." I have 32 years of background in pre-hospital medicine delivery, including uh, 3 years of Army service as a corpsman and an operating room technician. So there's a little bit of background there. It is a medical legal position, and basically the coroner has to certify whether or not it's death by natural cause. If it's not, or if there's any suspicion that it's not, then it moves into a law enforcement investigation situation. But we also use medical legal toxicology reports as well as autopsies when called for to determine the cause of death. Mm. So they said, hey, that's right up your alley. For an autopsy to be performed costs approximately $1,700 to $2,000. That comes out of the taxpayer's pocket. There is some coverage for that in the budget for the coroner, as I understand, which I have not seen yet, but I understand there is coverage for that. In some cases, a loved one may want a autopsy performed, but the taxpayer pays that bill. So if there's not a good reason, you can't put that kind of obligation on the taxpayer. If you so determine it's a natural cause death. And of course there would be toxicology reports, but also, circumstantially you have to look at things. If somebody has a long-term illness, they're morbidly obese, they have a lot of medications, toxicology will say whether or not those things, are part of the investigative process if they had some possible cause in the death. But you can't just go out and call in an autopsy because a family member, as bereaved as they may request one. The family member is certainly able to request that and pay for it out of their pocket. And I discussed that situation with some people who have been in that position before. And I said, well, it would seem appropriate that if the family wanted an autopsy and there was no obvious cause for an autopsy, they could order it and pay for it. And if indeed some type of aberrancy was discovered in an autopsy that wasn't exposed in the death examination, then why couldn't the county go ahead and pay for that? And I'd say, yeah, if you want to take the risk, you have to pay for it. But if we miss something and it turns out that there should have been an autopsy, then the county could pay for that. And that's how you guard the taxpayer's purse, in my estimation. And that's part of the job, as with any elected official. Mm-hmm. You guard the taxpayer's purse. You do the job, you fulfill your duty, your responsibilities, you serve the people, but they're paying your salary. So your obligation is to those taxpayers and the people in general to do your job and not overspend. That is the balancing act. Yeah. Exactly. And that is the challenge. You rely on others. Were I to be elected, it wouldn't be just me. I would have the final responsibility and therefore the final authority in those circumstances. But you bring in law enforcement, you bring in investigators from elsewhere, you run toxicology, you look at the scene, and I had a very good question asked on my Facebook page. A gentleman said, where can I go to find out what you know about preserving a chain of evidence? He had sat on a murder trial in Tacoma, and the coroner's office had not properly preserved that evidence. And I thought about it. It was a great question. And I realized that as a paramedic, when you respond to a death scene or potential death scene, you focus on medical care. And you're looking at the patient, but you're also looking at what pills are there. Is this chair out of place? Is there sign of forcible entry? Is there, all of those things, those are in the realm of the things that you have to judge as you're providing treatment in order for the treatment to be appropriate and the best course of treatment for that patient. And I realized, wow, wouldn't it be relaxing to not have to worry about patient care while you're still observing all of those things and can observe them in more detail? Take time to take pictures of the scene, the deceased, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought, yeah, I'll be all right with that. I think I can preserve the chain of evidence okay. It's the first time this county has been required to have a coroner. And of course, that is by state law. Once we reach that 40,000 person threshold, state law requires a coroner to be elected. This particular election means that the coroner who is elected will have to set up the office. Will have to establish relationships with law enforcement, with hospital, with hospice, with the prosecutor's office, with everybody involved in a death scene, with the funeral homes, et cetera, with medical examiners from other counties who may be called upon to perform an autopsy. So it's going to be a challenge to establish those relationships. It's a brand new office. Also work with the county commissioners to establish a budget. Also figure out if there's only one full-time equivalent position as a deputy coroner. That means 2 people will have to be on 24/7. If one guy's on vacation and somebody else gets sick, what happens? One of the thoughts was, that came to mind was, well, we could deputize part-time coroners, paramedics. We could deputize, that would be my first choice because that's my background. We could deputize sheriff deputies as coroners on an on-call basis where the coroner's office would pay them for each death scene investigation that they performed and still make sure there was coverage. The Washington Association of Medical Examiners, or coroners and medical examiners, has a motto, and the motto is every scene, every time. And what that means is that a coroner or a deputy coroner is on every scene in their jurisdiction every time somebody dies. And that's a motto I can aspire to.